Have you ever wondered about the history of Halloween? Celebrated on the night of October 31st, Halloween is one of the most popular holidays in the world, known for its mix of spooky, fun, and eerie traditions. This fascinating holiday, however, didn't start out with jack-o'-lanterns, haunted houses, or trick-or-treating. Instead, Halloween is rooted in ancient rituals, evolving through centuries of cultural, religious, and social influences. Its journey from a Celtic pagan festival to the modern commercialized event we know today is a reflection of its adaptability and the way societies have shaped and reshaped its meaning over time. I'm Keith, and this is History Wonder. Halloween's history begins over 2,000 years ago with the ancient Celts, who lived in what is now Ireland, the UK, and parts of northern France. For the Celts, their new year started on November 1st, marking the end of summer and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year often associated with death and decay. They believed that on the night before their new year, October 31st, the boundary between the world of the living and the dead became blurred. This night became known as Samhain, an important festival in the Celtic calendar. During Samhain, it was believed that the spirits of the dead returned to earth. Some spirits were welcomed as they visited their families, but others were thought to be malevolent and capable of causing harm by destroying crops or bringing bad luck. To protect themselves, the Celts built large bonfires and wore costumes made of animal heads and skins to disguise themselves and confuse any harmful spirits that might roam the land. Samhain was also a time for divination and fortune-telling. The Celts believed that their priests, known as Druids, could communicate with the other world during this period of spiritual activity. People often sought guidance from the Druids about the future, especially regarding matters such as harvests, marriages, and deaths. Elements of these ancient superstitions can still be seen today in Halloween's focus on ghosts, witches, and the supernatural. By the 1st century AED, the Roman Empire had conquered much of the Celtic lands, and with it came Roman customs and festivals that began to intertwine with local traditions. Two Roman festivals were particularly influential in shaping Halloween. The first was Feralia, a late October festival during which the Romans commemorated the spirits of the dead. This, like Samhain, was a time to honor ancestors and those who had passed away. The second was Pomona, a festival celebrating the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. Pomona's symbol was the apple, which may have influenced Halloween customs like apple bobbing, a popular party game where participants try to catch apples floating in water using only their mouths. Apples also became associated with divination games, often used to predict a young person's future spouse, a tradition that lingered in Halloween celebrations for centuries. As Christianity spread across Europe, the Church sought to replace pagan festivals with Christian ones. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as All Saints' Day, or All Hallows' Day, a day to honor saints and martyrs. The Church was likely trying to provide a Christian alternative to Samhain, while still allowing some of the customs to persist in a new religious context. The night before All Saints' Day, October 31st, became known as All Hallows' Eve, later shortened to Halloween. However, many of the old Celtic traditions, particularly those associated with the supernatural, continued to be practiced alongside the new Christian rituals. For example, souling became a popular activity in medieval England during this time. On All Souls' Day, November 2nd, poor people would go door to door, offering prayers for the dead in exchange for food, a practice that bears some resemblance to modern trick-or-treating. In this way, Halloween's roots remain deeply connected to the ideas of death, the afterlife, and honoring the dead. The American Halloween we know today owes much of its development to the massive influx of Irish and Scottish immigrants who arrived in the United States during the 19th century. These immigrants brought with them the ancient customs associated with Samhain, as well as the traditions that had developed in Britain. During the Irish potato famine of the 1840s, millions of Irish emigrated to America, bringing their Halloween traditions with them. This was a time of transition for the holiday, as it began to take on more of the characteristics of modern Halloween. In the early days, Halloween in America was centered around community events, with play parties, where neighbors would gather to celebrate the harvest, share ghost stories, tell fortunes, and dance. However, many of the darker elements of Halloween, like spirits and ghosts, remained part of the celebrations. One of the most iconic Halloween traditions, jack-o'-lanterns, also has its roots in Irish folklore. The original jack-o'-lanterns were not pumpkins, but turnips or potatoes, carved with grotesque faces and lit from within by a candle. These were placed on doorsteps to ward off a wandering soul known as Stingy Jack, who, according to legend, had tricked the devil and was doomed to wander the earth forever. When Irish immigrants arrived in America, they found that pumpkins native to the New World made perfect substitutes for turnips, leading to the pumpkin carving tradition that has become synonymous with Halloween. The custom of trick-or-treating has evolved from a combination of European traditions. As mentioned earlier, souling involved people going door to door, asking for food in exchange for prayers for the souls of the dead. Another practice that contributed to trick-or-treating was mumming or guising, where people would dress up in costumes and go house to house, performing small plays or songs in exchange for food or drink. By the early 20th century, these customs had taken hold in America, though trick-or-treating as we know it didn't become widespread until the 1930s and 1940s. During the early 20th century, Halloween pranks, often perpetrated by young boys, became a widespread problem. Vandals would soap windows, overturn outhouses, and even sabotage railroads. To counteract this mischief, communities began organizing more structured Halloween activities, such as costume parties, haunted houses, and neighborhood trick-or-treating. This provided children with a fun alternative to destructive pranks while also fostering a sense of community spirit. Trick-or-treating gained momentum after World War II, when sugar rationing ended and candy became more widely available. Candy companies quickly capitalized on this, and by the 1950s, Halloween had transformed into the family-friendly, candy-centric holiday that we recognize today. Costumes have long been a part of Halloween celebrations, dating back to the ancient Celts, who wore disguises to avoid being recognized by spirits. However, costumes have evolved significantly over time. In the early days, people dressed as ghosts, witches, devils, and other supernatural beings. These costumes reflected Halloween's origins in the realm of the eerie and the unknown. As Halloween became more commercialized in the 20th century, costumes began to reflect broader cultural trends. Mass-produced costumes featuring characters from movies, comic books, and television shows became widely available, and Halloween costumes expanded beyond the traditional supernatural themes. Today, people of all ages dress up as anything from superheroes and celebrities to animals and inanimate objects. The costume aspect of Halloween has become one of the most creative and inclusive parts of the holiday, allowing for individual expression and imagination. In the United States, Halloween is second only to Christmas in terms of commercial revenue, with Americans spending billions of dollars annually on costumes, candy, decorations, and events. The commercialization of Halloween began in the early 20th century, but it wasn't until the 1970s and 1980s, with the rise of mass media and marketing, that Halloween truly exploded as a commercial holiday. The horror film industry also played a significant role in Halloween's popularity. Films like John Carpenter's Halloween, 1978, and other slasher films of the 1980s turned Halloween into a cultural phenomenon. Haunted attractions, horror-themed events, and Halloween specials on television all became integral to how the holiday is celebrated. The growth of Halloween as a cultural event now includes everything from elaborate costume parties for adults to scare attractions like haunted houses and theme parks. While Halloween is most widely celebrated in the United States, its influence has spread around the world, and it is celebrated in different ways in various countries. In Mexico, for example, Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, which spans from October 31st to November 2nd, is a time to honor deceased loved ones with altars, offerings, and family gatherings. Though distinct from Halloween, it shares similar themes of remembering and celebrating the dead. Halloween today is a celebration that combines ancient rituals with modern customs. Whether it's children trick-or-treating, families carving pumpkins, or adults attending elaborate costume parties, Halloween has something for everyone. Despite its commercialization, the holiday retains a connection to its roots in the supernatural, mystery, and the thinning of the veil between the living and the dead. From its humble beginnings as a Celtic festival to its status as a global celebration of all things spooky and fun, Halloween has undergone significant transformations. It's a holiday that continues to evolve, blending old traditions with new practices and staying relevant across generations. The ancient Celts likely couldn't have imagined a world filled with Halloween parades, candy corn, and superhero costumes, but the essence of celebrating the mysterious and unknown remains at the heart of this beloved holiday. Thanks for watching. What topics in history have you wondered about? Comment below and let us know what videos you would like to see. And be sure to like and subscribe.